I've been selling acne products for 17 years, and the standard of care hasn't fundamentally changed, right? Because it's always been topicals, it's been oral antibiotics, and it's been oral isotretinoin. And they've all had their place, but I think a lot of people will say they've been overused to a point. And I'm happy to break a little bit of news here today.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Technology of Beauty, where I have the opportunity to interview the movers and shakers of the beauty business. And today is no exception. Today I have my dear friend, Steve Kreider, who is here from Cutera. He's the Senior Vice President of Global Marketing, and he came down from the Bay Area. Welcome to the Technology of Beauty, Steve.
Thank you so much, Grant. It's a pleasure to be with you, and I must say, this program has been just such a great primer, and as I've come back into this business after being on the dermatology side for a little while, it's really been valuable. So thanks for doing it.
Well, it's my pleasure. Yeah, I hear that a lot. It's really morphed into various things. People are using it for all different purposes, and we have a blast doing it.
Yeah.
So let's start with where'd you grow up?
Yeah, so I grew up in Doylestown, Pennsylvania, which is a suburb of the Philadelphia area, and so grew up there and went to college up there, a small liberal arts college called Muhlenberg. Yeah.
And what was your major?
So my major was business and political science as a double major, and wasn't sure what I was going to do when I got out, but I thought I had some of the soft skills to be in sales, and so I was just looking for the best sales job I can find, and that's what got me into Pfizer right out of college.
So you went to Pfizer?
I did.
And where'd you locate then for working for Pfizer?
I was still in the Philadelphia area.
Okay.
With Pfizer.
And you did their training programs and everything?
Man,
I've heard they're unbelievable. They're legendary.
It really is, and it was so fortunate for me. They actually had a country club up in the Rye, New York area that they bought out completely. This was like during the arms race between Pfizer and Merck when they were hiring all these reps, and you had the cholesterol market and everything was just so huge, these multi-billion dollar drugs. So they had to train all these reps, and so we had this tremendous facility up there. We go up there for 3-4 weeks at a time. It was really something.
That's great.
Yeah.
And how long were you at Pfizer?
I was there for about 2.5 years.
Primarily sales or
Yes.
exclusively sales?
Exclusively sales.
And then where'd you go to next?
Then I went to Medicis.
Okay,
and that's
with
what got me
Jonah.
into this with Jonah. Yeah, it was great. I wanted to get into specialty sales, found the opportunity with Medicis and dermatology, and it was 2006, right when we launched Solidyne, which soon became the leading product for acne. And so, man, 17 years in this business, it all kind of comes full circle because I know we'll be talking about acne a little bit today as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So did Jonah have you relocate or
I
did
did.
you stay in Philadelphia?
No, I moved down to the North Carolina area.
Okay.
So I went down to Raleigh, and that's where I started my sales career with Medicis. I then went down to Florida, and I headed up a team as a regional manager then. And in 2010, I made one of the most important decisions in my career was to get into marketing. So that's where I moved out to Scottsdale, Arizona in 2010 and really started my marketing career then.
With Medicis?
With Medicis, correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So overall, how long were you with Medicis?
From 2006 till we got sold in late 12, so it was a little bit over 7 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were you were there when Valiant bought Medicis?
I was.
Did you stay on the Medicis team?
I did, yeah. I mean, I was fortunate to be one of the folks kept after they cut a lot of people in Scottsdale. And that was an interesting time, to say the least. So, you definitely learned kind of the McKinsey way when Pearson and Valiant come in there and what they do to a company to try to, squeeze out every bit to the bottom line. It's educational in some ways, but I also realized that probably wasn't going to be where I was going to spend a long part of my career.
Okay.
So
Enough said. What came after the Medicis-Valiant period? And you're there in Scottsdale. Where'd you go next?
Yeah, so I went to Merz next, and I got introduced to Bill Humphreys through a mutual acquaintance.
Back to North Carolina.
Back to North Carolina, exactly right. So it was another cross-country move, and this time it was to work in business development, which was new because this was a finance function reporting to the CFO. So for me, coming from the sales and marketing background, it wasn't like anything that I've done before, but they had the opening. They wanted somebody with a little bit more of a commercial background to help the finance people look at all these deals. Because if you remember at that time in 2013-14, Merz went on quite a tear, acquiring a lot of companies in the injectable space, skincare, and then Ulthera.
So you reported to Humphreys?
No, I reported to John D'Onofrio, the CFO.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
And as you know, Dennis Condon was before
Yep.
Humphreys before they moved back to North Carolina. And
That's
Dennis
right.
has been on this show a couple
I've
of
heard,
times.
yeah.
I've tried to get Humphreys on. So if you talk to
we can get
we
him.
it's all been scheduling.
Okay.
It's scheduling. Okay. So there you are. You're at MERS working for Humphreys in a sense.
Right.
And then MERS buys Ulthera.
That's right. Yeah, the biggest deal in the history of MERS, and at the time it was over a 100-year history. So it was at that point that Bill actually said to me, hey, I told you we were going to be really active on the deals. We're not going to be anymore. We just spent all the money basically that the family had. So why don't you get back into the commercial side? And that's when I took over the U.S. marketing for Ulthera.
So did you report to Patrick?
I did. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. And then subsequently Bill left and then Bob Radigan came.
Bob Radigan came, and I left right around that time as well.
Okay.
And I followed Bill back over to Valiant, which now was under a completely different leadership team. And I came over and ran sales for the ortho dermatologics business. So we rebranded the entire business.
Okay.
And it was great because a lot of my former Medicis colleagues who hung on through all the kinds of ups and downs of Valiant were there. So it was a little bit of a reunion as well.
And tell me what you sold? Ortho?
Yeah, ortho dermatologics. So it was pretty much topical products for
Okay.
acne, psoriasis, atopic dermatitis. It's really a lot of those derm products that Valiant rolled up over the years. It was companies like Dermic and Coria and Medicis that all rolled into this. And then when Bill got there, that's when we rebranded it Ortho Dermatologics.
And where were you located?
Still in North Carolina at that point. Yeah.
Okay.
So I was able to stay down in the Raleigh area.
And how long were you there?
So I was there for about a little bit over 4 years. And then, I saw this opportunity with Cutera. I wanted to get back into the aesthetics business. Just the headwinds in therapeutic dermatology and the reimbursement landscape has really, really gotten difficult. And then I saw this opportunity with Cutera and the fact that they wanted to bring an acne device to market. I said, well, this is great because I've done the device thing a little bit with Ulthera. I've done the acne thing really throughout my career. I'm the guy to help bring this thing to market.
But most of your work, though, it sounds, was topical. Yes, you
Right.
had device a little bit with Ulthera.
That's right.
Or therapy.
Yeah.
But you weren't a plug-and-play guy for the most part.
No.
And you'd certainly never done light-based technologies.
Right.
So you moved to Cutera.
Did, yeah.
And then did you relocate to the Bay Area for that job?
Yeah, we moved about a year ago. Yeah.
And so now you're head of the marketing efforts, global markets for Cutera, which is a big laser company.
It is.
And you must be learning tons, even though I know you know acne, but you've got more than an acne device.
Oh, we sure do. I mean, we're actually celebrating our 25th anniversary this year at Cutera. And, it started with the original Zeo platform, and it continues today through XLV and TrueBody, and now with AviClear on the laser side. So you're absolutely right. There is no shortage of great devices and innovation coming out of Michael Karavitis and Amod Kathari, my colleagues there. So there is a lot to learn about laser physics and everything that we do. But really the reason why I'm here is to take what has always been a company that's made great technologies, really well respected in the industry, but we haven't built the kind of brands around them that make a difference. And, whether you're talking about hydrofacial or cool sculpting, they've built incredible brands. And so hopefully we can bring that component to it, and our sales and marketing efforts can rival what our R&D and scientific team has always been able to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about Avi and tell us about acne treatment with a light-based technology, because I know there's a lack of understanding out there.
Yeah, there definitely is. And, there has been other devices that have had maybe a short-term effect on acne. Maybe they've gotten a clearance for mild acne or something like this. But this is the first time where you're taking an energy-based device, and at 1726 nanometers, you're targeting the sebaceous gland. You're actually affecting the sebum production, which also, when you affect the sebum production, it destroys the sebaceous gland to a point where you get a more durable result of acne. So acne is multi-factoral, but really at the heart of it is the sebaceous gland, because that's where the sebum production and the inflammatory acne comes from. So by doing that, that's why we're able to get a clearance for mild, moderate, and severe acne, unlike a lot of devices that came in the past. And I'm happy to break a little bit of news here today because we just got word of this a few days ago that the FDA, based on the validity of our 12-month studies, has allowed us to talk about long-term clearance of acne. So this is a unique thing because no other device has long-term clearance of acne in their label, and no drug does either. So this is really a game changer in the treatment of acne.
So does the FDA define long-term as 12 months or more?
That's right. It was our 12-month studies, and the fact that our 12-month studies were better than our 6-month, which were better than our 3 months, which gave them the confidence to go ahead and use that in our language.
Now, is this with continuous treatment? Is this with one treatment? Is it multiple treatments? How does that look to the consumer?
Sure.
Are they coming in monthly, weekly?
Yeah.
What's that look like?
So it's just 3 treatments, 30 minutes each, and that's it. And right now we're tracking patients out past 2 years, and they're getting a durable result. We'll see if down the road there's any need for any kind of touch-up treatments or anything like that, because like I mentioned before, acne is elusive and multi-factorial. But right now, people are getting durable results with just those 3 treatments.
So a teenager with terrible cystic acne can come in for 3 treatments and expect 12 months or more duration?
Absolutely.
And how much time between the 3 treatments?
1 month.
Okay.
So you're taking...
So a 16, 17-year-old who's absolutely traumatized by acne can come in once a month for 3 months.
That's right.
And it'll clear.
It will.
Over what period of time does it clear?
So we measured at 3, 6, and 12 months, and the results continued to get better. And when you look at a couple of data points here, because you mentioned that bad nodular cystic type acne, in our trials, over 90% reduction of the nodular cystic acne, which really rivaled Accutane. And then when you look at people 12 months out, 2/3 of patients are clear or almost clear, looking at the IGA scale. So they're getting very, very durable results. Again, that's as monotherapy in our clinical trials. When you're a practicing dermatologist or a medical provider, you're oftentimes throwing other things at them as well.
That was my next question.
Yeah.
So in your study, it was monotherapy. Right. There was no antibiotics. There were no other issues that we're putting on topically, right?
Right.
Orally or topically.
Correct.
So now we have these people that are troubled by acne, and it doesn't matter if they're 30 years old or 16 years old. Yeah. Everyone who has it hates it, right?
Absolutely.
As you know, we use many forms of therapy to do it. We address it with many. So your study, the FDA study, was monotherapy. So that's amazing to me. That's absolutely amazing.
Yeah. No, we're that's what's so exciting about it. We're in this new frontier because I've been selling acne products for 17 years, and the standard of care hasn't fundamentally changed, right? Because it's always been topicals, it's been oral antibiotics, and it's been oral isotretinoin. And they've all had their place, but I think a lot of people will say they've been overused to a point, right? We know Accutane, there's an iPledge program, so there's a lot of baggage associated with that and regulatory complexity. With oral antibiotics, you're getting into a broader healthcare concern, not just dermatological, about the overuse of antibiotics. So now you've got the chance, just harnessing the power of light, and in 3 treatments, not having to go through that trial and error period of different kinds of topicals, different orals, and going through this progression with all kinds of visits to the doctor's office and everything in between. So we're really excited about what this can do.
So you mentioned the wavelength of light, and most of the people watching and listening are probably not fully up to speed on that. I don't think we need to dwell on it. However, when people hear the word laser, they either think of Star Wars shooting down missiles or hamburger faces, the people they've seen torch faces for wrinkle removal.
Right. So
I want you to address, because as it's like saying car and there's a Ferrari and a Volkswagen, or saying transportation and there's a skateboard and a rocket ship.
Right.
They're all transportation. When you say lasers, as you know, because of the wavelengths and whether it's fractionated, ablative, non-ablative, and so forth. Could you address that for our listeners as though they were consumer and sort of demystify? What does the patient look like? What do they feel like when they're getting it? What do they look like when they walk out the door? And what do they look like a week later?
Absolutely. Well, look, it's truly a lunchtime procedure. And so patients go in, they just need to clean their face and make sure that the oils and everything are off that so that there's good contact. It's a very safe device to use that, depending on the laser laws of the state, you can have mid-level providers, nurses use it because it doesn't fire unless it makes perfect contact with the skin. There's also a cooling sapphire tip on it, which helps with any kind of pain mitigation. The pain is somewhere between a 3 and a 5 out of a 10. And so, there's definitely some discomfort there. But when you're in the chair for less than 30 minutes, it's really not too tough to handle. And then as far as afterwards, there's a little bit of erythema, a little bit of redness right afterwards, probably for about 15 or 20 minutes, and that's it.
Okay.
People go back to their day. The only thing that you can see happen is in about 20% of the cases, people will get a purge of their acne, whereas the acne will get a little bit worse before it gets better. Okay. But that's really common in a lot of different treatments that you do. So that's the only watch out there for about 20% of the patients. But really, there is not. It's not one of these types of ablative lasers that has days and days of recovery. And in fact, we're getting a lot of people who are being treated, a lot of women in their 20s and early 30s who still have hormonal acne, who feel like it's holding them back in their life and their career. Maybe as a teenager, they've been on the various benzoyl peroxide topical oral antibiotics, but they want to treat their acne like an adult now. Mm-hmm. And so they're gravitating to this because they make their own healthcare and financial decisions at this point, but they also don't want to go through the pain and the office visits of other standards of care.
Do they ever treat off of the face?
They have. It's not clear to, but I know that doctors have taken it into their own hands.
That's why I asked the question the way I did.
Yeah,
do they, not you,
no.
I know it's not clear, but do some practitioners treat other areas of the body which are prone to acne?
I have seen other practitioners have been known to do that, but it's something that we don't condone. We're not cleared for, but it's something we might work on.
Okay.
Yep.
I think that'd be a great idea.
Yeah.
So do you ever put a topical anesthetic on before the treatment for people that are pain sensitive?
No. And in fact, I think topical anesthetic could affect, the treatment in some ways. I've heard people use Pronox a little bit just for people who are anxious, but that's a very small minority of the cases.
Okay. So. And what is the average treatment cost?
The average treatment cost is about $3,000. And so we've seen it range, and certainly in the more affluent, urban areas, people go quite a bit higher than that. And it was something at launch that I think we were a little bit worried about, and if that market was going to be there, but it really hasn't been a concern, really because people see the value in it. Mm-hmm. It's about value. If it wasn't a durable result and patients weren't seeing themselves getting better over time, then that would be a really tough thing to do. But the value is there, and so people are paying it.
Have you come across any practices that are using either subscription or patient financing for that $3,000?
Yes, they are. It's interesting. Certainly, your more affluent practices, things like that, they just seem to people put on their credit card, and they don't want to go through patient financing. But we do have partnerships, and they have used it, and we actually have one through Care Credit too. That's a $99 a month program to make it more attainable for the masses. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. Are you familiar with Privy by any chance?
I have heard of Privy, yeah.
From Patient Fi?
Right.
We should talk about that when we're done with the show.
Yeah, we should. I think Todd was on your show recently, right?
So, I was with Todd this weekend. Okay. So I was working with Cutera literally in the late 90s.
Wow.
And I had 3 of the Zeo platforms.
Okay.
And it was one of the first technologies that had multiple wavelengths on one box, going way back.
Sure.
Because up till then you had box 1, and that was one wavelength, and box 2, and box 3, and box 4, and along comes Zeo.
Yeah.
And then we had up to 5 wavelengths. And my fellows would ask me, which laser to buy and so forth. And I would say, if you can only have one, because we had a BB, actually an IPL on it. Are you still, as in your role, still sort of promoting the fact that a person can have one box, one footprint, and multiple wavelengths?
Absolutely. I think the Zeo is still one of our top sellers to this date. And that's one of the biggest draws to it, is just the versatility. To your point, if you were to have one box, that would probably be it. And then if you want to get more specific into vascular, there's other places to go there.
Sure.
But that's a terrific starting point. And so we are at the heart a laser company, and that's not going to fundamentally change.
And what other, besides the AviClear,
Yeah.
tell me about, and I know we talked about Zeo a second ago, but what's come, what other wavelengths or lasers are you really promoting at this point in Cutera?
Yeah, so really the XLV and the XLV Plus is really a go-to vascular laser for the dermatology community. That's
And
been
plastics.
a great seller. And plastics, of course.
I had one of the first XLVs.
Okay, terrific. And the one that we're investing a lot in right now, not exactly a laser itself, is the True Body portfolio. So you've got True Sculpt and True Flex. True Sculpt being the radio frequency product for fat reduction through heating. And then with True Flex, we're harnessing the power of muscle stimulation in order to grow and develop the muscles and to simulate doing thousands of crunches within minutes.
Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, so we've actually just rebranded it, and you know a lot about putting the body contouring market on the map. It's one of the faster growing categories in aesthetics, so we're really happy to be a part of it, and continue to plow more and more investment into it. One of the things that we found that consumers were looking for in body sculpting technology that we can play an ownership role in is customization. Right, a lot of applicators and stuff in the past have had maybe one applicator that works well on one part of the body, but we've got 6 different applicators, and you can put these on different parts of the body. And most people always have this one area that they're most concerned with, whether it's a little bit of fat around the bra strap or other places like that. And we heard that over and over again in our market research and said, why don't we own customization? And so that's what we've been doing since we've rebranded True Sculpt and True Flex. We call it the True Body portfolio of products.
With the True Flex, do you have different applicators also, or just
We do.
the True Sculpt?
Yeah, we do, which has been great.
So instead of just the one standard one, say for the abs,
Right.
Tell me about the other applicators and what other body parts or muscle groups.
Yeah.
Kind of curious.
Yeah, so people are able to use it on their abs, their glutes, their thighs. That's where we have clearances for. And then, people have been known to get a little bit of crazy, but we won't get into that. But there are 6 different applicators that you're able to use.
Is that right?
That's
On
right.
the True Flex?
That's right.
6 different sizes and shapes?
Yes. Well, 6, no, they're all about the same sizes. They're smaller, so
Okay.
you can be more targeted in where you put them.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. And with the True Sculpt, you're using the heat.
That's right.
Is it radio frequency power?
It is, yeah.
And what have you done to mitigate the discomfort?
It really isn't that bad to begin with.
Have you had it?
I have.
So
yeah.
have I. I don't agree. I didn't like it. I thought it hurt.
Are you talking about on True Sculpt?
Yeah. My first and only True Sculpt, I was like, ouch.
All right. Well,
But I was very partial towards cold.
Okay.
If you know what I mean.
You've coined the phrase, I know. We might need you to help us coin something.
Yeah, I like doing
that
it.
can be catchy. Maybe there's.
No, I love the customization.
Yeah,
This is
yeah.
the first I've heard about it. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
On both.
Definitely. No, I mean it's man. I'm actually surprised to hear that because most
Maybe
people
it
call
was
it a
turned
hot,
up too high.
Maybe it was turned up too high.
It wasn't like ultrasonics. Don't
No,
get me wrong.
Right.
That really sent me.
Or the liposonic, right?
Or
That was the-
liposonics, I mean,
right,
yeah.
Right. Yeah. That was.
That was uncomfortable.
That was.
And I'm not trying to bash anybody.
No.
It's more my pain tolerance I'm bashing. It's
No,
more
understood.
me.
We'll get you hooked back up to it because maybe there's been a software update or something in the meantime.
Yeah,
that
it
has
was
helped
many years
mitigate
ago
that.
when it first came out. I would love to try the customization.
I would love to make sure
Yeah,
you
and
get
come
a
back and
treatment.
report back to
Let's do
all
it.
of you how it worked. Goodness knows I could use a little bit of both. That's great. Okay,
Yeah.
so now you're at Cutera, and you've got all kinds of these products, and you're just crushing it on the acne thing for sure.
Yeah.
And what do you see in terms of the future in Cutera or the aesthetics business? Think about all the stuff you've seen over the last 20 years.
Well, yeah. Well, over at Cutera, it's interesting right now. We're going through a little bit of a leadership change, if you've been following the news and everything.
I have.
But it's been, I think it's all going to settle really well for us. We've had a couple people leave the board, a couple more announcing their retirements, and we've had 4 new directors join our board, 3 of which have great industry experience. So I think they're going to be really helpful as we think about the next leg of growth. And I think for us in Cutera, and I alluded to it a little bit before, it's there's no shortage of great ideas coming out. Usually companies, it's the other way around. We don't have any great new innovations, but we can figure out a way to brand it or to push
Market it and
For us,
Uh-huh.
we've got a great pipeline and future things that'll be coming out as well. But we need to build some significant brand equity here as well and do some things and invest a little bit more in the branding than we did in the past in order to make these true great global franchises and not just to be that Bay Area company that makes a great laser that nobody knows about.
Uh-huh.
So I think that's going to be the important thing for us now. As I think about the future, I really think we're onto something with this almost intersection of aesthetics and therapeutics. I think when I talk to our scientific guys, when they do R&D now, they take a much more purposeful approach to it. Whereas in the past, I think we had like a 1064 laser that we just figured out all the utility that it had as it went.
Okay.
Whereas now, like what they did with acne, we said, okay, 1726 is really unique. We can target this. Let's build a laser that can get to that exact nanometer wavelength in order to depress the sebaceous gland. And we're taking that same kind of approach to other things as well. And so it's not just what we can do scientifically, but I also think we have some momentum pushing us from the reimbursement side where I just was. Mm-hmm. Because you think back 10 years ago, I think we all had insurance plans that covered anything and everything.
Right.
Now it's not always the case. Uh-huh. And the prescriptions that you may have wanted in the past aren't always covered. And now people are much more accustomed to pulling out their credit card at the doctor's office and not assuming everything's going to be covered. So I really like this space where we're getting into, where you have people who get a great therapeutic result to something, but also a great aesthetic result. And they're going to seek out the great doctors, the great derms and plastics who do that for them.
Okay. Excellent.
Yeah.
And leaving Cutera for a moment and leaving even light-based technologies, what's the future of aesthetics and surgical or non-surgical? I know you've always been in the non-surgical.
Right.
And you're in energy-based and light-based now, but if you look away from that, or if you want to stay there, you can. Yeah. But tell me, you've seen a lot change in the time you've been involved. It's the time you started at Pfizer, and here we are. What's it going to look like in 5 or 10 years?
I don't know. I know a lot of people talking about things like regenerative medicine, and there's so much interesting things going on. I won't even begin to speculate because I don't know that. I just think when you look back and you see the size of this industry now, it's grown a lot, but it's still just in its infancy, right? I think any way you look at it, let's call it a $20 billion market. You go back to Pfizer. Pfizer has drugs that are the size of $20 billion, right?
Yes.
So for anyone who thinks that we're getting it at peak whatever, peak laser, peak neurotoxin, peak filler, anything like that, I think it's going to keep growing. And I appreciate what you do and what you talk about in growing the pie, because there's going to be a lot there.
I totally agree with you. I'm glad to hear that we're in agreement on that. We're just scratching the surface, aren't we? It's a very exciting time, and the future is even more exciting.
I think so, yeah.
Well, are you going to hang around Manhattan Beach today, or are you going back up to the Bay Area?
I'm heading back up to the Bay Area, yeah. So it was a good short trip, and it's such a pleasure to see you.
I want to thank you so much for jumping on the bird and coming down and hanging out with us and sharing your story as well as Cutera's story and the exciting future with laser-based technologies and other aesthetics. And I know I'll be seeing you at a number of meetings. Erin sends her regards.
Please give her my best. It was a pleasure to work with her.
I will. And it's great to see you. Great to have the show.
Thank you, Grant.
Safe trip.
Thank you.
And I want to thank all of you for joining us for this exciting episode of The Technology of Beauty, where I have the opportunity to interview the movers and shakers of the beauty business. And today was no exception. Thank you very much. See you next Tuesday.